Hello, everybody. Eric here with another top 10 list. And this is my top 10 killer animal books. And I don't know what else to say about what this list is. That's what it is. It's my top 10 killer animal books. I'm going to have some honorable mentions. I made some notes in my handy dandy, uncomfortably dark horror little notebook, spiral notebook. Um, so yeah, this is in no particular order once I get to the actual official top 10, but just a few that I wanted to mention that didn't quite make the cut. And first of all, we have, they're over there on that shelf right there, Suckerville and B Tornado by Chris Sorensen, both a couple of B movie killer monster novels. Suckerville is Killer Slugs. B Tornado, I think you can figure out what the killer animal in that one is. Just great fun. I also have on my honorable mentions Playing Possum by Stephanie Rabig. I'm never sure about the name, even though I've interviewed her, and I'm sure I asked her how to pronounce it. I have a terrible memory for pronouncing names. But Playing Possum, Killer Possums, Were Possums, Zombie Possums, Possums. A lot of fun. Really, really, really enjoyed this book. Soul Survivor by Zachary Ashford. It's part of the Rewind or Die series, and it's about a group of contestants on a reality show, kind of a survivor type reality show, but they're dealing with drop bears or killer koalas. Cute little furry killer animals. And then finally, for the fictional honorable mentions, and this is probably going to get me a lot of heat. Jaws by Peter Benchley. Why is this an honorable mention? Well, one, it's one of those rare cases where the movie is much, much, much better than the book. And the problem with the book, I enjoy the book. It's pretty much a classic. But there's that whole middle section. Spoilers for those who haven't read it. There's a whole middle section that's just about Chief Brody's wife having an affair. And that brings it down. I don't know why it's in there. Maybe someone can explain it to me. Is it all just there to create tension between some of the other characters? But it's a pretty big, maybe it just feels like a huge section. I mean, it's not a huge book to begin with, but it seems like a pretty big chunk of the book taken up by that. So it's an honorable mention. And now I said that's the last of the fictional honorable mentions. And that's because the truly last honorable mention is this book, When Animals Attack, edited by Vanessa Morgan, the 70 Best Horror Movies with Killer Animals. And there's the back cover there. So yes, 70 articles, essays, whatever you want to call them, by a bunch of different writers and people. Writers are people, aren't they? All about their favorite killer animal movies. And since it's my favorite subgenre of horror, killer animals, I really enjoy this book. But it's not part of the official top 10. But let's dig into that. Now, 4 of these books, I think it's 4, I have, but they're buried. I did not feel like digging them out. So we're going to play a game called Let's Try to Show Off the Covers on my phone. So there's that. I tried to keep this within the realm of real animals, even though some of them might be mutated or something. So like I did something about killer animals that was posted on Twitter, and someone's brought up Tremors, and I was like, yeah, Tremors, one of my favorite movies of all time. I absolutely love that. But it's a creature feature. It is technically an animal, but it's not a real animal. Get what I'm saying? So that's not part of this list. I could make a whole other list on killer creatures. Um, Despite their being real, there are no dinosaurs on this list. Again, for me, that's more into the creature thing. Although, again, some of this list might cause some arguing. Also, no novelizations. So, Orca, Swarm, books like that, not on the list. Squirm, uh, didn't put any movie novelizations on the list. But there are some that have been made into movies. But the novels, the books are the original story. And I'm sure there have to be plenty of killer animal books that I've read and just have forgotten. And of course, there's going to be plenty that I haven't read, so they're not on the list because I haven't read them. All of that being said, let's jump in. We'll start with one that's on my phone. These are in no particular order. As a matter of fact, the stack of the books that I can show are simply the biggest ones are on the bottom, like the mass market paperback sizes on the bottom, or the trade paperback sizes on the bottom, mass market paperback on top, and then whatever order I happen to put these on my phone. So this isn't like I'm not counting down from 10 to 1. Just talking about 10. And the first one is, see if we can, what the best angle for this is. I don't know. Tortures of the Damned by Hunter Shea. There seems to be no good angle. This is a pre and during apocalypse novel where the biggest danger is killer animals. If I'm remembering this at all correctly. Let's try a different, we're going to try one more angle. That's a little bit better. You can kind of see the city skyline. There you go. Trying to get that so you can see burning cars, a burning city. This is probably still my favorite Hunter Shea novel because it's got that whole killer animal element. Absolutely fantastic. One that I will reread in the future, despite all the many, many books that I have to read. But yes, it starts out in normal society. Then there's an apocalyptic event. Then we've got people trying to survive, and we've got killer animals, and I can't recommend it enough. Tortures of the Damned by Hunter Shea. Next up, see, we're gonna kind of jump back and forth. So I should have started with the books, because then the telephone covers would have slotted in perfectly. But what are you gonna do? It's too late now. Next up, we have Slugs by Sean Hudson. It's killer slugs, and look at that cover. Oh, that's fantastic. This is one that's been made into a movie. Sean Hudson. There's a sequel called Breeding Grounds. I can't remember if I've read the sequel or not. I have a nice little shelf with some Sean Hudson stuff. Slimy, creepy slugs. They're little slow moving things. How are they killing people? Well, you'd have to read the book to find out. Generally, with this sort of thing, it's about numbers. Slugs, the most repulsive creatures on Earth. Most terrifying book of the year. Good stuff. I have a little shelf or a little space with a bunch of Sean Hudson books. I think I may have only read Slugs, possibly Breeding Ground. I need to read some of his other stuff. But Slugs is a really great killer animal book. All right, and then along the same lines, we have, I love this cover. So with the phone thing, I got to choose from multiple covers. I decided to go with this one. It's not the cover that I have on my copy of the book. The Rats by James Herbert. Classic. And there are two sequels, Lair and Domain. This book, when I first read it, within the first 2 pages, there's something that happens in the first 2 or 3 pages. I think it's like 2. It might even be the first page where I was in. He does something that made me giggle with joy. And I probably shouldn't admit that to people if you know what I'm talking about. It's my kind of stuff in a horror novel. So, Killer Rats. I have not read either of the sequels, I don't think, but I do have them both. And they're all buried. But, yeah, I love Killer Rats. We're going to see more on this list. But, The Rats by James Herbert. It's a classic. Again, basically, I'm recommending all of these books. Why else would I put them on a top 10 list if I wasn't going to recommend them? If you like killer animals, you need to be reading these classic killer animal books. So, let's move on from The Rats to The Nest by Gregory A. Douglas. You can see this is one of Valancourt's paperbacks from hell. It's another one that's been made into a movie. So was The Rats. I don't know if I mentioned that. So that's 3 in a row that have been made into movies. This is Killer Cockroaches. And for an in-depth review, you can go to, it's the first review video in my Valancourt Publishers Paperbacks from Hell series, because it's the first one that they put out. But Killer Cockroaches on a Little Island, and it is great fun. Really enjoy cockroaches just swarming. The movie, a lot of fun, very different from the book. Pardon me. All right, next up. I'm sure everybody's read this. I can't imagine anyone hasn't read this. Another one that's been made into a movie. Cujo by Stephen King. Come on, how could I not put this on there? This is one, it's buried up there. I think this is the cover that I have. But Killer St. Bernard, poor little doggy, poor big doggy, gets bitten by a rabid bat, gets rabies, kills some people, traps a woman and her son in their car in a sweltering summer. You fear for their lives. You feel sorry for Cujo. It's a classic book. It's a classic movie. It's Cujo by Stephen King. Now, this is a book that came out. Obviously, I'm holding it in my hands. It must have come out around the same time as a movie. I believe the timelines line up. A movie with the same title, but they are not related in any way. This is Slither by Edward Lee. Yes, killer worms. And they're not just any old worms. They're weird, mutated, giant worms. And there's a reason that they're weird and mutated and giant that I'm not going to give away. But I was so happy that Edward Lee, at the point that I read this, he was up there. I had just relatively recently discovered him and devouring everything that I could that he had out that I could find, and was very happy that he wrote a killer creature, killer animal story. And killer worms are always fun. Asterisk, it's only as fun as the skill of the author or the creator. But really, really enjoy this book. It is possibly my favorite at this point, anyway. Sure, I haven't read every killer worm story out there, but my favorite killer worm story. I thought about uh, Conqueror Worms or Earthworm Gods by Brian Keene. I like this one better. I love those books. I really, really love this book. Slither by Edward Lee. Not made into a movie yet. So it's not the movie with Nathan Fillion, Elizabeth Banks, Michael Rooker, the James Gunn movie. Not the same thing. All right. Oh, I got to turn my phone back on to get to the next one here. This is the last one that's on my phone. We've got a repeat author. It's my list. I can do that if I want. I don't remember if I've mentioned this in other lists where I watch a lot of things, videos on YouTube, people making lists, and they're like, I didn't want to repeat this. I didn't want to repeat that. I'm making my top 10, but, it could have been half of it all the same author. Well, if it's your top 10, it's your top 10. I suppose, okay, maybe you don't want 5 of those books in your top 10 of whatever to be Stephen King books, but you should at least mention those. I don't know. Let me know what you think about that. Repeats? No repeats? Well, I have a repeat author. This is They Rise by Hunter Shea. Yeah, trying to show off that cover on the phone. This is about killer ghost sharks, or Chimera. Not ghosts of sharks. They're actually called ghost sharks. This is my, 6th video, so getting a little dry. I hope you'll pardon me for taking a drink. So yes, these are chimera fish, also known as ghost sharks. They do that they're trapped in the ice. Something breaks them free. They're able to make it to the surface, and they start killing people, and I love it. Shark attacks, fish attacks. Great, great stuff. Hunter Shea, a great writer. He's got a ton of killer animal books. I could have put, Rattus New Yorkus on here, that novella, which leads into his novel Manrattan, I think is what it's called. I have that, haven't read it yet. He's got, can't even remember. I have just tons of killer animal stuff that he's done that I haven't even read yet. And Tortures of the Damned surprised me by being a killer. I just thought it was going to be post-apocalyptic. Didn't realize it was killer animals. Things like They Rise, based on the cover. Rattus New Yorkus, Manrattan. Some of the other ones, that they're killer animal stuff. I don't know why I haven't read them, because I try to spread the love around to everybody when I'm reading stuff. But, yeah. They Rise by Hunter Shea. There's your Chimera Ghost Sharks. Great killer fish stuff. That's the last one that's on the phone. Next up, we have The Roo by Alan Baxter. See you out back. This is a fun book. It's about a big, I'm not going to say giant, but oversized kangaroo that's killing people. There may be more to it than just a normal big kangaroo. The story behind this book is almost as interesting as the story of the book itself, or in the book itself. There was an newspaper article about a big kangaroo punching somebody, or going around punching people, and someone said it sounded like an old zebra. Paperback, and I believe it's Keelan Patrick Burke, who, let's see, someone who made the cover. They were like, yeah, Keelan Patrick Burke. was like, hey, someone said, hey, make an old zebra horror type cover for a story about a killer kangaroo. And so he made this cover, and I don't remember if it was, if you make the cover, I'll write it, or that's a great cover, can I write it? But Alan Baxter, an Aussie author, wrote this book. Love the cover, love the story. There's more going on than just a big kangaroo punching people, but it's a lot of fun. The Roo by Alan Baxter. Then we have an old copy of a book. This is Clickers by J.F. Gonzalez and Mark Williams. This is one of the older. I don't think this is the original cover, but it's definitely an old cover. And this is about killer crabs, but not ordinary killer crabs. This is one where I was talking about how I wanted to do real creatures and things. Some people might argue, but they're killer crabs, possibly mutant crabs, giant crabs, and there's some other stuff, but it's mainly the crabs. Now, this series, there's Clickers, Clickers 2, Clickers 3, Clickers versus Zombies, Clickers Forever, which is an anthology, a bunch of different authors playing in the Clickers sandbox, Clickers Never Die, which is an original story by, I believe it's Stephen Kozanowski and Wiley Young. I can't quite read it from here. That's a Clickers story that takes place in World War II. There was supposed to be a whole series of Clickers stuff. I don't know if that's still in the works from different authors and stuff. But this is the book that started it all, and I absolutely love it. Now, you might be asking yourself, what about the Crabs books from Guy N. Smith? I have a few of those, haven't read any of them yet. So I can't put them on the list if I haven't read them. He did a lot of killer animal stuff too. So Clickers, you've got, I think it's a writer going back to his hometown. Yep. He's a novelist. He's going to a small village. Maybe it's not his hometown, but it is a writer going to a small coastal town, Phillipsport, Maine, and things are going to get wild. They're going to get bloody. They're going to get crazy. Clickers, J.F. Gonzalez, Mark Williams, a fantastic killer animal novel. And then finally, the last one is another one that's been made into a movie. And a relatively recent read for me, but it is one of, if not my favorite, killer animal movie, possibly the one that started it all for me. The book is Ratman's Notebook by Stephen Gilbert. This is made into Willard. I love the original Willard. I really like the remake with Crispin Glover in it. Ben, not a good movie. I have it. I have it on, I think, Blu-ray from Scream Factory. I don't even know if there's any special features on it. I have it because I'm a completionist. And I used to watch it when I was young. Didn't realize how bad it was when I was young. But it's still got killer rats in it, so it's not the worst thing I've ever seen. But the Ratman's Notebook, the book that started it all, an unnamed protagonist. So Willard was made up for the movie because this is the journal of this character. So he's not calling himself by name in his own journal. But it's pretty close to the movie. What goes on here? Maybe 75% translated into the movie, 25% that didn't make it, that's still in the book. It's, let's see, 1968 is when the book came out. I believe. Ratman's Notebook, 1968. And this is from Valancourt, who do the paperbacks from hell and stuff. They reprint some fantastic books, Valancourt. But yeah, really, really good book. It's epistolary in that it's a journal. You're reading the unnamed characters' notebooks as he talks about meeting, training, using these rats. Yeah, if you're a fan of the movies, absolutely recommend it. If you're a fan of killer animals, absolutely recommend it. If you're just a fan of classic horror literature, recommend it. A classic being, 60s and early. I know earlier stuff, but it's still a classic. Ratman's Notebook, Stephen Gilbert. So that's my top 10 killer animal books. What about you? Is there anything I missed? What are your favorite killer animal books? Again, I didn't do any novelizations, and I didn't do any, for the most part, non-real creatures. I don't think there was anything in here. I could have listed another 5. I could have had 10 in my honorable mentions, and then the 10 actual list. Which wouldn't that just become a top 20 list? I don't know. But what killer animal books do you enjoy? And do you have recommendations for me? Things that, I'm not an expert. I'm sure there's plenty that I'm not familiar with. There are quite a few that I have that I haven't read yet. There are quite a few I know of that I just haven't found anywhere. But don't let that stop you. Throw those titles down there. As long as it's not Dean Koontz. I don't care about Dean Koontz. So, yeah, that's it. What killer animals do you like? What do you recommend? Let me know in the comments below. If you have any comments, questions, or corrections, please put those in the comments below. If you want to yell at me for not making Jaws part of the official list, or if I forgot some book that you think demands being on this list, which is possible. I'm getting old. My mind isn't what it used to be. Let me know all that in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe if you have any. See, it's late. The light's shining in my eyes. I've had a headache today. Please like, share, and subscribe, all the usual YouTube stuff. If you'd care to follow me on other social media, my Twitter is @Ronan5757. My Instagram, where I post pictures of books, comic books, board games, fuzzy animals, is EricSmith5757. That's Eric with a K, ERIKSMITH 5757. On Blue Sky, where I almost never post, I'm still there. It's @ELSmith. That's all I have for you this time, so until next time, read more books.